Good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's Brentwood Chamber of Commerce Member Spotlight. My name's Colin Barber. I'm Chairman of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to host this afternoon's Spotlight, where we'll be talking and finding out a little bit more about David Strelitz from David Strelitz Video Productions. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon and hope you find the event interesting and informative. Just to let you know, this is one of a series of webinars which we've been broadcasting over the past, well, almost a year now, and they'd replaced the Meet the Members when we were previously going to members' business premises and having a social sort of networking events there. Whilst we've been able to do that, we've introduced a member spotlight, which gives you a chance to find out a little bit more about the various members of the Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, we are hoping to reintroduce the Meet the Members events at business premises maybe in a few months' time, and obviously we'll keep you posted about that. Incidentally, all of the Member Spotlight events have been recorded and are available on YouTube. We have a Brentwood Chamber of Commerce YouTube channel, so if you tune into that, you'll find some very interesting interviews with various different members of the Chamber of Commerce, and I think it's a great way to find out about businesses and how they operate, and often you can pick up some useful tips for your business as well. And of course, this afternoon's webinar is being recorded, so if you know anyone who wasn't able to watch it this afternoon, or for any reason you have to leave early, then you'll be able to catch up with it. It should be uploaded to YouTube within the next day or two. So I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope you find it useful and interesting. I will be chatting to David, asking him a few questions, finding out a little bit more about his business. If you've got any questions you'd like me to put to David on your behalf, then there's a Q&A button somewhere on your screen, probably at the bottom of your screen. If you want to type in any questions you've got for David, then I can willingly ask him on your behalf, whatever that question may be. So anytime during the webinar, if you've got anything you want to ask of David, then feel free to type it in for us. I think that's all I need to tell you at this stage. So it just remains for me to welcome our guest this afternoon, David Strelitz. Are you there, David?
I think I'm not on mute, so that's a first.
Good, I can hear you loud and clear. So welcome, David, and it's good to see you again this afternoon. Obviously, I've known you for a few years now and been in touch with your business for a while. But I think it's interesting, first of all, just to ask you how you came about, how David Strelitz Video Productions came about. Just tell us how it all started, because I know it was many years ago.
I always say it started with a sneeze, and the reason for that was I had pneumonia, and quite badly. And as I was recovering, it concentrated my mind on doing things that I'd like to do. And I was always fascinated by the Japanese tourists I used to see at Tower Hill Station with their video cameras, video being instant. And I went out during my recovery period and bought a whole load of video equipment to pursue my hobby. But then very quickly, I was being asked to film things. And my accountant suggested if I set it up as a business, I could offset all the losses against tax. And I thought this was a wonderful idea. It didn't quite work out like that, because 5 years later, I was registering for VAT. And the rest, as they say, is just a tax return.
So when you started then, as you say, you've seen a Japanese tourist in Tower Hill, it was just more out of curiosity. You never imagined it would be a business. It was just something to start off as a hobby, was it? Yeah,
I mean, I like the instantness of video, because in those days, I mean, you go back to the early 80s, if you wanted to see anything that moved, you'd shoot it on cinefilm, you'd send the film away to Kodak. 3 weeks later, you'd find out if you'd remember to take the lens cap off, and that was it. Whereas video was instant. It wasn't necessarily particularly good quality, but nevertheless, it was instant. And that was the big appeal.
And that's something that our younger viewers probably find quite difficult to fathom out, that literally there was no means of recording something and seeing it straight away until then.
No. I mean, even to this day, when I get cinefilms in to transfer, people used to have their whole wedding shot on 3.5 minutes of cinefilm, and that was it. That was their memory. I mean, now, I mean, with some weddings, they go on for hours. I mean, on the videos.
Mm. So was it presumably at that time the equipment was quite expensive, was it?
I think my initial purchase, because we didn't even have a video recorder in the house at that stage, but I bought a top-end Panasonic video recorder that had capabilities at the time for editing, and a Panasonic camera and recorder, because once again, in those days, the recorder was a separate box on your shoulder, with a cable connecting it to the camera.
Right. Okay. So basically, there's a camera with a cable into a different box. It actually records what's on the camera.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it? Things
it is. And once I did start to charge money and realized that there was potential in this, and actually had the business up and running, one of the first things I did was to upgrade the camera and the recorder to a low-end industrial format called U-matic, which was even heavier.
Right.
And that really required someone to walk around on the umbilical cord, holding this big box on their shoulder. So yeah, it was all quite primitive. And of course, editing was done by effectively copying from one tape to another.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the transition from sort of hobby to initially doing, what was it, wedding videos? That was it when you first started charging, was it?
Yeah. I mean, I started to do weddings and parties, copying tapes, also got into cine transfer, and all these years later, I've just finished a job with about 60 reels of film, 8mm and 16mm for a client. And it seems odd that I was quite reticent as to whether there'd be any market in this transferring cine film. And of course, all these years later, it still comes in bags and boxes, particularly through the lockdown. So the wedding thing, gradually, by using professional equipment, pushed the quality beyond what most people were offering. And that was a way of getting more work in and getting experience as well. But I stopped doing weddings in about 2006. So well, you only get 20 years for murder. I think, you know, the fun had gone out of doing them, and it clashed with the other work that I was doing. You can't turn around to a bride and groom that's paid you a lot of money and say, well, I can't finish your wedding this week because I'm making a promo of a show. And you certainly don't turn around to the producer and say, well, you'll have to wait because I've got to edit Bill and Ben's wedding. So
exactly, yeah. So when did you actually leave your day job, so to speak? When what triggered that?
Yeah, I should have left it in '87, but then I happened to, I was offered the chance to work in the West End, and it sounded something that I should do, but that didn't really work out. And then I was obviously, work was building up, and it was probably '88 that I finally had made the decision that video would give it a go full time. Got a business loan, put in some extra equipment in the studio, and yeah, just let it
Jumping forward to what, 23 years, we'll come back a little bit to what happened in between, but what's changed in terms of, well, two things really. What's changed in terms of technology, and what's changed in terms of the marketplace?
What hasn't changed? Well, obviously the equipment, the size of the equipment. I mean, when you consider what the quality that comes off of a phone, even a modestly priced phone, is 50 times better than you would have got on a professional video camera back in the 80s. Computer editing has totally changed the world of production. I mean, at one time, back in the early 90s, it was only the London boys, only the West End production houses that had computer editing, but gradually it started to become more affordable, providing you had £20,000 to throw at it. And of course, even down to other things that I do now, TV commercials that I make and electronically deliver. In the old days, when I first got involved in making TV commercials for shows and similar, they would be copied down onto digital tape and put into a jiffy bag and posted special delivery or given to the motorcycle courier.
Yeah, of course.
Now I could sit here in front of my laptop, edit a TV commercial to broadcast spec, and with a couple of clicks, that would be delivered to any station anywhere in the world.
Yeah. So with the increasing quality of phone videos on people's mobile phones, does that mean that there's less of a demand for video photographers at things like weddings? Are people more likely just to do it on their own mobile phone? And is the video market more now at the commercial end?
Certainly, as I started to get out of weddings, the trend was that people would get that one of the guests would have a video camera or a phone. I always used to laugh when I did do weddings. One time you stand at the back of the aisle for the shot of the bride and groom coming down the aisle, and you'd get a lovely shot. You'd work it out with the photographer who was going to be where. By the time I stopped doing weddings, you were lucky if you got a shot of the bride and groom coming down the aisle, because all you saw were these hands going across into the aisle, or people just actually going into the aisle with their phones and cameras. And
yeah, of course.
But of course, I mean, what the quality, the production quality of what could be produced, of what people like me would produce, there was no comparison to what was being shot on the phones. And it was also a trend coming in for what were affectionately called cinematic weddings. And these were guys who, as far as I'm concerned, had totally lost the plot, that this was someone's important day. But as far as they were concerned, it was all about them making a film. And when they've got the cooperation of the bride and groom, who want to be superstars in it, no, that's not for me. I was happy to say, yes, I've done all that. I've served my time. There's no good behavior, but I'm out of it. So
what would you say is your niche now? Have you got a niche market, some particular, I mean, obviously there's a lot of video companies out there. What would make Strelitz Video Productions unique?
I mean, I've been very lucky over the last few years. And I know people say you make your own luck, but way back in 2005, I was introduced to a international theatrical producer by the name of David King. He was putting on shows all around the world. Somebody was doing some work for him but couldn't finish it off. They asked if I could do it. One thing led to another. And tomorrow I will be doing some more work for him. So all those years later, I'm still very much involved in theatrical, musical theatre production for promotion. But it's opened up doors with other production companies. So in 2019, as an example, we were at the Shaftesbury Theatre with a 5-camera shoot on a show called The Illusionists. And the client was a company who, alas, are no longer with us, called Cirque du Soleil. And they don't come much bigger than that. And that was because somebody knows somebody who knows somebody, and you get put in the frame to do these jobs. So I've been doing quite a bit of that type of work. Conference work, of course, over the last 12, 14 months, that's totally dried up. And corporate work, I'm actually doing some filming on Friday for a project to update a project. But that's just starting to get the inquiries coming through slowly.
Yeah. So you mentioned conference work has obviously dried up. I was going to ask you actually, what effects has COVID had on your business? Is there obviously you've lost certain type of aspects of your business? Are there other areas that have grown, or other areas that have sprung up as a result of COVID?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I had a very good idea the lockdown was coming. I mean, I was in Birmingham with a crew to film a project in February, and one of the guys does a lot of broadcast work, and he'd already been told that all his sports work, you can forget it in March onwards, because we'll be locked down or quarantined, I think was the word he was using. We're all going to be in quarantine. But realizing that things were going to change, I did make a conscious effort that the one thing that we could do would be and push was transfers. And during lockdown, I've been very, very lucky that it's paid off. Pushing it out more on the internet, tweaking the website, has paid off. And in fact, within 3 days of lockdown coming, one of my corporate clients phoned me, his house move was off, and effectively I had a week's work. So
this is the transfers from
yeah, so
video to
he turned up on the doorstep
DVD.
with this great big box of camcorder tapes where he'd been traveling all around the world, and said, yeah, get them onto digital, Dave. And
does that involve editing, or is it just literally a case of putting it in the machine and leaving it to the machine to do whatever it does?
There's certainly no editing, getting it into the computer, tidying it up, front and back end, encoding it so that it looks good. Odd little tweaks done to certain tapes to make them look right, but it's not exactly a creative process as such. But when you consider that all the creatives I know haven't worked for 15 months,
yeah,
I consider myself very lucky.
That's true. Yeah. So coming back to your sort of 23 odd years in business, tell us about some of your most interesting or challenging jobs you've
How
encountered.
many years in business? I think you're 23. I think you'll find it a bit more than that.
Well, I was going back to 1988 when you said about turning your back on your full-time job. Is that anyway? However long it is.
Oh dear. Diane Abbott must have been your maths teacher.
Yeah. I've realised now.
Interesting jobs. Okay.
33 years. Sorry.
I've done such a variety of work. You learn things that you never think you would ever learn, like how Wellington boots are made. I was flown to North Wales to film the reconstruction of a gliding accident. And when I got to the airfield and was putting the tripod in the back of the plane, and the solicitor who was piloting the plane said, "What's that for, Dave?" And I said, "It's the tripod. I've got these straps and we'll strap it in the glide." "No," he said, "you won't need that. You'll go up in the glider." Now, that wasn't quite what I was expecting. So, and of course, as I have told the story many times before, on the way home, I found myself in a full-scale emergency landing situation. And it wasn't until we were about 50 yards off the ground that I realized actually that was for real. We had a problem on the engine. I've done work with Down Syndrome Association, learned a lot about Down syndrome, communication, stuff like that. I think when you do projects like that, it puts everything else into perspective, because you finish filming for the day and you go home and that's it. And the parents of these children and the children, they're facing their battles 24/7. And as the guy who was working with me as a sound operator said on the way home from one of the days filming, you realize it's us that can't communicate with them. It's not the children that don't communicate with us. And it was a really, really inspiring project. So the very, I'm trying to think of the word to describe it. It's a big reality check of how lucky you are when you're not in that situation.
Yeah, I understand. So coming back to sort of business, a couple of questions for you. First of all, obviously you've been a member of Brentwood Chamber of Commerce for several years. What's your relationship to Brentwood in terms of business? Do you do a lot of business? Have you got a lot of clients in Brentwood?
Well, I think I know all the deer at Weald Country Park. We're on a first name basis, and certainly quite a lot of the ducks know me by name because I'm a self-confessed duck and goose feeder. I got involved with was introduced to the chamber by Neil Hornsby through business networking. Neil ran, as you know, Drinks of France, and we used to meet up at the network meeting, and he suggested I became a member, and it's his fault. Business connections, I've done work for companies in the Brentwood area, but also being an illegal from Basildon, we don't have a chamber of commerce, you see, so I've sneaked in.
Oh, that's all right, no problem, you're very welcome. And what about your business philosophy? What have you learned about business over the years in terms of how you run your business? Is it is it focused on technology? Is it on innovation? Is it on customer service?
I think foremost, my business philosophy is you treat customers as you would expect to be treated yourself. I can remember making a video for a national house builder, and it was called From Good to Great, and it was about the 3% of customers that weren't happy, and it's those 3% that you need to look after. But if I think rule one, don't overpromise. To use the Del Boy expression, don't bullshit. Because if I get people phoning me saying, I've been told that you can do this, that, and the other. No, there are limitations to what can be achieved. So not over promising, giving good customer service, having everything, virtually everything under one roof, and that's a pretty good start for the work I'm doing.
Sounds good. And what about the future? Is there any sort of technology on the horizon that you think is going to change your business or change the way we do business in terms of video?
I think it's one of the biggest challenges I think most of us face in this sort of industry. It's working out what technology to invest in, what's going to take off and what's not. I'm proud to say that in a business group I was in, a trade association, I was called a Luddite because I saw no future in 3D domestic television. And there were a small group there that were investing heavily in 3D. And all I would say is, where is 3D now? It's with the 8-track cartridges. And most people won't even know what they are. Or the laser discs.
Tell us a little bit more about this, then, though. What was it about 3D television that made you think it wouldn't work?
Okay, well, from a corporate point of view, there is no way that you're going to get a couple of hundred people in a room at a business seminar or similar conference and say, okay, guys, put these 3D glasses on because we're going to show you a video that Dave made for us. It's not going to happen. When you go into the reception area of the big company and they've got their video playing, they're not going to say, the receptionist is not going to say to you, oh, if you'd like to put these glasses on, you can watch the video because it's in 3D. That's never going to happen. And the thought of actually snuggling up on the sofa with wife, cuddly toy, or just myself, having these hideous glasses on, which gave some people headaches. No, it just didn't, I couldn't see the attraction. So that's a political answer because I didn't actually answer your question. As far as the future is concerned, I think 8K, which is currently, that's 4 times better resolution than 4K. I really don't think that people are going to buy into it. So I think phone technology will get better. Phone apps for editing will probably get better. But, and there's certainly technologies coming out in broadcast delivery and editing that we'll keep an eye on, but it's not going to affect most of us. There's certainly going to be some innovation when it comes to television and advertising and targeted advertising, which is available now, but I think it's going to happen in a bigger way. I mean, there's something called Sky Ad Smart, and the ads that you see on your screen they're targeted. So Big Brother is watching you, and it's targeted because they work out what your profile is.
So in terms of your future business, and you see, certainly the rest of your working life, seem pretty much carry on with the way things are for you, or any major change of direction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that a couple of jobs will come off, and I might get to work with a couple of musical theatre heroes. Can't name them, but hopefully, I'm hopeful that I get to renew my association with Peppa Pig, because we were in the throes of making promos with the lovely creature for the live tours, and I'm just happy to have a pulse and a till that keeps ringing.
Well, that sounds like a good philosophy, and probably a good place to a good a place as any to finish our chat. So just before we say goodbye to you, David, I just want to point out to our viewers, if any of you chamber members would like us to spotlight your business, then do let us know. Do contact us at the Chamber of Commerce via our website, and let us know. I'm very happy to for you to be the subject of our member spotlight. We run them on a monthly basis. At the moment, the slot for May is still available, so if you'd like your business and yourself to be featured in May, then do get in touch with us, and we'll be happy to have a half-hour chat with you about your business, and I'm sure the other members would be interested to hear about it as well. So what remains really is for me to say thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, David. I've certainly found it interesting and enjoyable, and just to remind you, the viewers, that it will be uploaded to YouTube in a day or two's time for everyone else to enjoy, and I'm sure they will. So thanks very much, David, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.